Hi folks, Clay here. It's the last weekend in June, and that means it's time for another garden tour. My roses have done poorly this year, but this one seems to be doing okay. It's a Camelot. It almost died a few years ago, and it's been gradually making a comeback. Today is Sunday, June 28th. Right now it's about 4 o'clock, temperature in the mid-80s. The mulberry trees are still fruiting. There aren't as many as there were at the beginning of the season, but they still taste great. I cleared the underbrush from around some of the blackberry canes. You can see they have a good amount of fruit on them. And I'm hoping that next year they'll come back. They are just starting to ripen, but soon we'll have blackberries to eat. The peach tree survived transplanting. It looks like it's starting to grow. The herb garden is in serious need of some pruning. I don't really know anything about herbs. This is more my wife's project. I guess it's time for her to get out and get busy. Seems like we should be cutting some of this and drying it, but I don't really know that much about it. My pea vines have finished flowering, and there are a lot of pea pods in here that need picking. We've been picking them fresh and eating them in salads. If you split the pods open, you can see the peas are well formed and they're sweet and crunchy. The lettuce is growing faster than we can eat it. In a 4x4 square, if you succession plant, you can grow more lettuce than 2 people can eat. But the main reason I garden is for tomatoes. Tomato plants are doing really well. They're growing fast now. These are Garden Leader Monster and Purple Russian. The Purple Russian is already 5.5 feet tall. Lots of flowers, and we're starting to see the first fruits form. You just never know what's going to do well in a garden. I have never been able to grow cabbages. I've tried many times, but for some reason this year the cabbages did really well. This variety gets to 2 or 3 pounds. I think this one is ready to come out. We didn't use any pesticides at all. We haven't had any problems with caterpillars this year. A little bit of slug damage, but not enough to worry about. It's possible that growing it next to all this catnip has kept the cabbage butterflies away, cabbage moths. I just don't know. But for some reason, this year, I'm going to cut this one out today. I'll take some loppers to cut this cabbage out. It's a good size head. I'd say it weighs a couple of pounds. The seed package says they mature in about 60 days. It took us much longer. Keeping the garden safe. Watch for that chipmunk. I've got kale in here that needs to be harvested. It's reaching the end of its life. The dwarf Siberian kale is bolting. The scarlet kale from Baker Creek seems to be taking the heat a little better. And there's some nice Swiss chard growing. I'll need to pick some of that soon. Seems to be much more heat tolerant than kale. And that one cabbage that snuck in here is still growing. These are my carbon tomatoes. They were my favorite tomato from last year. They're about 4 feet tall. And I think these are super steak hybrids. In the strawberry patch, the plants are starting to send out runners. So we'll need to get those transplanted. We didn't get many strawberries this year. It's really the first year for the patch. But we did get a few, and I see one more in there ripening now. It's gotten too hot to grow radishes and arugula, but if you're looking for something peppery to add to your salad, try nasturtium blossoms. They have a similar taste with a hint of citrus. These tomatoes are Brandywine. They're about 3 feet tall. It's an old heirloom. They're supposed to taste really good. I've never grown them before. They have potato-shaped leaves, and they're growing slower than the more modern varieties. And these are 2 beefsteak tomatoes from the Ferry Morris group. In this container, there's a mortgage lifter on the left and a beefsteak from American Seed Company on the right. We'll get to compare the tomatoes from the American Seed beefsteak and the Ferry Morris beefsteak if they both produce. And we still have things in the greenhouse that need transplanting. I've got some pepper plants that are waiting for space in the garden. My wife had some tomatoes she grew from seeds she saved. We've got some lettuce transplants ready to go in. There's one spaghetti squash which grew from a seed in a spaghetti squash we ate. And then we have that pepper that wintered over. It's actually got some green peppers growing on it. Here's the biggest one of the group. It looks like it's doing pretty good. We have some more pepper plants here, waiting for space to open up. And down here, we still have some more strawberries that need to go in the ground. We still have flowers that need to go in the ground. Seems like the work never ends. Here are a couple of more nasturtiums. And here's my Queen Elizabeth. Still waiting to see if she's going to send out new leaves. It's a really sad sight compared to that Camelot. And the last thing on the garden tour is this container with a couple of tomato plants in it. On the left is an Ace 55, and on the right is a Supremo. These are both determinate. The Supremo is a paste tomato. And it seems to be setting fruit the fastest. That's it for today's garden tour. I think it's time to go in and have a cool drink. What do you say, kitty? Yeah, maybe you'd rather stay out here in the heat. That's all for today, folks. Thanks for stopping by. Come back at the end of July to see our next garden tour, or check in every week for our regular garden videos. Huh, the bird bath doesn't have any dead animals in it. That's a nice change. Happy gardening, everyone.